You've demanded it. We've created it.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Jacob.
And we are Talking 12s.
Yeah, boy!
Let the games begin.
All right, welcome to Talking 12s, Week 4, the aftermath of the Seahawks-Jets win 27-17. All right, first off, we're going to go to Jacob with the injury report.
Exclusive.
Thomas Rawls has that hairline fracture in his fibula. They ruled him out for about another 4 to 6 weeks. Nick Vannett, with that ankle injury, should be returned in the next couple weeks. CJ Prosise, still coming back from that broken wrist. He's got a couple more weeks till he's back. And today, Mike Morgan got put on the IR.
All right, it's a good thing we picked up CJ Spiller with Prosise and Rawls being out.
Definitely. He had a couple key plays in that game. Definitely that touchdown in the end zone.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And 2 runs for 12 yards. So hopefully he can fill that role until the guys get back. And who knows, maybe he can take over a role. First down. All right, we are now talking. I mean, we can't wait for this. We got to do this right off the bat. We got to talk about Russell Superman Wilson.
How great was he in that game?
He was, oh my gosh. I know we talked about it last week, and, you know, some people thought he should have sat out. I know that I was a firm believer in that there's no way that he was going to sit out no matter what, and he looked amazing.
No doubt.
So Russell Wilson, I know he's had a lot of people talk about how he is not a pocket passer. He's only good because of his wheels, and he can run and do circles and get out of situations. I would like to talk to some of those people right now. I'd love to have them on our show.
When you watched him on Sunday, it was almost like he took on the mold of a 6'3", 6'4" Aaron Rodgers.
He was, a little bit mobile, not much. He couldn't run very fast, and he's been being smart about it. He's been, maybe getting a couple yards, getting down. But, yeah, he's just been amazing, and I can't even believe he was hurt.
Definitely, and a big part of that goes to our offensive line, too. Played phenomenal, I thought.
They did a good stopped the Jets linemen, but they redirected them very well.
It's probably one of the first games in a long time where I can say I can probably count on my hands how many times Russell Wilson got hit in that game.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that he had a perfect passer rating after the first half, and he had close to a perfect passer rating after the second half. Amazing. 23 for 32, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he wasn't running anywhere. So, let's hear I want to hear from those people that say that he's only good because he can run. Second down. All right, that takes us right into the offense. Let's talk about the offense. I would like to start with the O-line.
That's exactly what I was going to start with. Jermaine Ifedi made his debut, and it really made a big impact on our offensive line from what I saw.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about Jermaine Ifedi in the preseason and how he was just a monster. And him and Bennett were the ones that were getting in fights, and Bennett was getting kicked out of practice a couple times, and because I guess Ifedi just doesn't stop. He just keeps going.
No, but you could really see the progress that our offensive line has made through the season, and it's only been 4 games. So,
yeah, I'm very excited, and we look like we're in the same shape we were the end of last season, and you know how many points we put up last season.
The only thing I'm thinking is every team's nightmare right now is Russell Wilson when he has time in the pocket.
We can't say enough. I can't say enough about Russell Wilson. I know people are talking about, MVPs for the league so far. I just know that Russell Wilson should be in the running because on 2 hurt legs, we've had 2 back-to-back games now where they're not nail-biters like usual. That's, Seahawk football. It's usually a last-second comeback. But 2 times now, the only thing that stopped him from the game we lost was a fumble. And we might be 4-0 right now. So all praise to Russell Wilson, but not all praise. Let me take that back. Not all praise. Let's talk about some wide receivers right now.
Jimmy Graham looked phenomenal in that game. Came down with a beautiful one-handed catch.
113 yards, 6 receptions.
Doug Baldwin came out with another great game. He had that beautiful catch where he did get clobbered by 2 Jets players, but he held on to that ball, and I don't know how he did it.
Oh man, that was a hard hit, and he held on to it. And once again, I know we've been harping on this, but Russell Wilson, how are you going to guard those receivers? How are other teams going to guard those receivers? We got Jimmy Graham with 6 catches, Doug Baldwin with 4 catches, McAvoy with his first catch ever as a professional for a touchdown, Christian Michael 5 catches, Paul Richardson a catch, Jermaine Kearse 3 catches, Tyler Lockett a catch, C.J. Spiller 2 catches. I mean, who do you guard?
That's exactly it. I mean, when they start double covering one of our receivers, we just go to another one.
Yeah, that's what's wonderful is they can't do that. There's nothing they can do. I mean, other teams, you have superstars like Odell Whiny Baby Beckham, and he'll get 50 targets a game, and you can't do that to our receivers. It's awesome. I love it. Offense is looking so awesome. It's going to be hard not having a game this week, but we needed it. So,
and I hear a lot of people talk about how we should have one of those big superstar receivers like most team has, but I think with the way our offense is run, it wouldn't fit.
Yeah, and honestly, now we have that receiver. His name is Jimmy Graham, looking amazing out there. Let's talk about running game. Little wasn't quite there this game.
It started out a little rough. Started out a little slow. Christine Michael was getting hit at the line quite a bit, getting stuffed, and I feel like he ended strong, and he did what we needed him to do for us to win the football game, and I think that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, they held their own. They didn't pick up a bunch of yards. Christian Michael only had 58 yards, but they did enough to get the game off. And then C.J. Spiller only had 2 carries for 12 yards. One of them was -1, and one of them was 13. So
I thought C.J. Spiller had a good game with that catch in the end zone, but when I saw him run the ball on we only saw that one for positive yards, but I think his running style looked really similar to Christine Michael's.
Yeah, great pickup. C.J. Spiller was only in camp for a couple days and comes right in, makes an immediate impact in the first quarter with a touchdown catch. Pretty happy about that. And another thing, let's go back to Russell Wilson, how everyone says he's only as good because he's a runner. Russell Wilson had 5 carries for -5 yards, so we definitely should have lost that game according to other people. So.
No, I like C.J. Spiller. I think he really reminds me of like a Matt Forte who we played against, and our defense did great. Only allowed him to have 27 yards rushing. But, yeah, it was a really fun game to watch our offense, I say, dominate. I thought it was a pretty dominant game.
They did. They definitely dominated, and we didn't have to wait for the fourth quarter to sweat it out. It was an awesome game. Third down. Now it is time to talk about Seahawks defense.
Oh, boy. Another great game from our defense. Allowed 17 points, and really, to me, we allowed 10. That's what I think. There was that one play where everyone thought for sure that was a pass, but ended up being a fumble, and they picked it up, ran it for a touchdown, and it had no impact on the game whatsoever. So,
yeah, none at all, and we were already in firm control of that game. We were up 17 points at that time, I believe. So, yeah, I was a little disappointed in their call because his hand was moving forward, I thought, but, whatever. You got to give him a bone.
Another thing our defense did that really good was we didn't allow Forte to really do anything. He had 27 yards, 2 receptions for 16 yards, and that's really good because he is considered a receiving back. So,
yeah, and that's on 14 attempts, so that's less than 2 yards a carry. So you got to love that. And I did see a stat that our defense, a lot of people have been talking about how we've been giving up some yards here and there, but our defense really has allowed the least amount of yards per game this season for any team. So we are right now We are the number one defense in giving up yards. And I know that the linebackers, again, came through big. Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, big-time games. Each had a sack, a bunch of tackles. But I know what we're all thinking about. I know what we want to talk about right now. We want to talk about some Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman, definitely. Him and Deshaun Shedd both played great lockdown defense.
Yeah, Richard Sherman was he got beat up a little bit in the first half. He had some he gave up quite a few catches and some yards, and people were starting to talk about, I know Twitter was blowing up about how Richard Sherman was not a lockdown corner because he was following Brandon Marshall, but I'm telling you what, Jacob, I was looking at him on the sideline, and he looked very determined to turn it around in the second half. And what do you think? Do you think he turned it around?
For sure. He had 2 amazing interceptions where he totally set up the quarterback.
Almost 3.
Yeah, almost 3. And that's one of the things that this team lives by. A little thing they like to say, bent but not broken. And he really showed a lot of determination in the second half to show that he wasn't broken in that first half.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that first interception in a little bit here, but that was beautiful. That was a beautiful moment right there.
Something else that happened, which I know you texted me all fired up right after, was when their offensive lineman Winters headbutted Michael Bennett and gave himself a concussion, was out the rest of that game. I mean, yeah, it was. We don't like to see that happen to our players, but man, it was really funny to see him go out with a concussion.
Yeah,
like
it was an after the play penalty, ran up, drove his top of his head into Michael Bennett's side of Michael Bennett's head, and then he knocked himself out for the rest of the game. So, yeah, karma's you know what. Earl Thomas also had an interception and about 6 tackles, so he had another good game. Cam Chancellor wasn't quite the force he was last game, but he still made his presence known.
Yeah, Earl Thomas, he's come out with a couple of interviews where he's pretty down, he's pretty down on himself, I guess. He doesn't think that he's playing up to the potential that he should be playing at. And so it was cool. It was really good to see him come into this game, get an interception, a couple tackles, and hopefully he can get his mojo back a little bit. Another guy who I saw, Cassius Marsh. I know you really like that guy. And I did notice he played close to 50% of the snaps.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't have big numbers or anything, but, he's been coming in and playing hard.
Just because he doesn't have any numbers, doesn't mean he's not putting pressure on that quarterback to throw the ball into tight situations where, he could be part of the reason why Fitzpatrick had 3 interceptions this week.
Yeah, it wasn't the 6 we were hoping for like he did last week, but 3, hey, we'll take it. 4th down. All right, let's talk about our plays of the game.
I have Jimmy Graham's one-handed catch down the sideline where he reached out with his opposite hand over his back shoulder to reel in that ball.
That definitely fired up the Seahawks. I mean, that was a crazy catch.
Definitely, and that's the type of explosive plays that we were looking for Jimmy Graham when we traded for him, and we're finally getting it, and it's so exciting for me to see.
Yeah, really excited. So, yeah, plays of the games were hard. I'll tell you, though, I'd have a couple plays I'd like to talk about. One of them, when we were backed up into our own end zone, and it was 3rd and, 10, 12 yards, and Russell Wilson dropped back and just threw a Dilford dime to Jimmy Graham, dropped right in his arms. That was a pretty amazing play, but my play of the game, I definitely got to give it to Richard Sherman. He gave up some yards, he gave up some catches, and people were talking a little trash about him, and I saw the determination on his face. Came back second half. They threw at him, and what everybody, you, me, all the announcers, thought was a Brandon Marshall pass interference ended up going against Richard Sherman somehow, and everybody was shocked. And the very next play, they came right back at Richard Sherman, and I know he baited him into that. I saw a look in his eyes. He went running, acted like he was going to go deep, and just turned around, and the ball was in the air, and he intercepted it. It was beautiful. That's my play of the game.
Great play. He definitely baited him into that throw, and it was the same throw back to back, and Sherm knew exactly what was coming, and he picked that ball off.
And that was we scored a touchdown after he intercepted that ball. So that was a big play in the game and put us up by 10 points, I believe. So, yeah, that's my play of the game. All right, right on to player of the game. Who do you got?
I had to go with the same guy who had my play of the game, which was Jimmy Graham. Possibly the last 2 weeks players of the game. He really came out with another strong outing, and this really surprised me. He's the first tight end in Seahawks history to have 2 back-to-back games with over 100 yards.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, my player of the game, I got to go with not the fake Superman in Carolina, but the real Superman, Russell Wilson, the guy who hurt, whatever. He's going to be out there. He's going to have his players' backs, and comes out with a bad ankle, a high ankle sprain, a sprained MCL, and just works the defense. 23 completions, over 300 yards with 3 touchdowns. I mean, I can't say enough about Russell Wilson. I love Russell Wilson. I hope he's here forever because no one works as hard as him, and all his teammates respect him more than anything. Overtime.
Now we want to give some other shout-outs to other Seattle sports teams. Friday, number 10, Washington, took on number 7, Stanford, and rolled over them 44-6 to move up in the ranking to number 5. And it's really cool to see another Seattle sports team or Seattle football team excel.
Dogs, number 5 in the nation. Amazing. All right, and I'd like to give a shout out to the Seattle Mariners. And yeah, it was a disappointing year, but I'll tell you what, every game, 161 games out of 162 really mattered. And they were in the running for the playoff race, and they came up a game or 2 short. But man, it was exciting and it was heartbreaking. But hey, I'm hoping every year, I'm a Seattle sports fan. Every year I'm voting for the Seahawks, the Mariners, the Huskies, the Cougars, Washington through and through.
I know you have some strong opinions on people who think we should possibly trade Felix Hernandez. Yeah.
So I've actually had a friend, I've heard people talk on the radio, and I've had a friend ask me, well, what do you think we should do with Felix? He had a tough year, and should we use him as trade bait? Because he's still, you could get a lot for Felix. Be honest with you, you could get a good couple draft picks, couple good prospects. You definitely could get it. But I'll tell you what, we talk about all the time how some players are not loyal. This is a business, don't get me wrong. And we, us as fans, we're in these teams with our hearts, not with our wallets, and we're not getting paid to be fans. We just love these teams, and we talk about how players should be more loyal. Well, I can't think of a more loyal player than Felix Hernandez. He has been with us through the worst of times when he knew that he was getting no run support and we had no chance of winning, and he's said he loves this town. He never wants to leave, and he's re-signed with us every time. Yeah, he's making a lot of money, but you know what? He could make a lot more money somewhere else and win a championship. And he's stuck with us, and I think that we need to show some loyalty too. So I felt pretty strongly about that. I love Felix Hernandez. He wants to be here, and I want to show him loyalty. And I believe he's going to come back next year and have one hell of a year because he's a hard worker, and he reminds me of Russell Wilson. He's the Russell Wilson of the Mariners, so I'd like to show him some loyalty.
And actually, one of my friends last night said, I think we should trade him because we'd get, a couple good players who would definitely add more depth to our roster or whatever. The way I see it, his whole year wasn't even bad, maybe last half.
Yeah, he definitely had a lot of good games there. So,
And I don't know very many good pitchers who haven't struggled a half a year, a full year. There's a lot of pitchers out there who have struggled through a year. I don't see a problem. Like, yeah, I wish that he would have shown what he had in his prime years, but there's no doubt in my mind he's going to come back and be that pitcher like he's always been.
yeah, he is the ultimate competitor, just like Russell Wilson. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next year because I know it's going to be great.
Here at Talkin12s, we love Seattle sports, and we'll rep them till we die. Everyone follow us on Twitter at Talking12s. Me and Jason will be posting live updates all about the Seahawks game and our thoughts on the game.
And also subscribe to our YouTube page, also called Talking 12s. Thanks for listening.
Go Hawks.
Powering down all systems. Initiating system sequence shutdown.